Hey, hi, hello, friends, and I'm back with part two. Hi, friends. So I'm filming this just a little bit after you saw part one. We have about 5 minutes and 20 seconds worth of video left, so we're just going to go through it. This is still from her live Wow. And the one that she put up today, I think it's like Tim No Drama Beezing or something like that. I don't remember the exact name of it. That one will probably be out for patrons tonight. So thank you, patrons, for being so patient with me and for waiting. That will be out for you guys tonight. And then probably next video will be after the two-parter is done. The next video will be maybe like Friday. I don't know yet. I'm making it up as I go. All right. With all of that said, let's jump into it. This is probably going to be a little bit on the shorter side. Here's hoping. Maybe. But you guys know I talk. Any thoughts between now and since I recorded it? I don't really have a lot of thoughts on this. Just that as always, I don't think this saga is done. This is going to keep going until something big happens. And personally, I think that something big is going to be like her getting kicked out of the apartment or Pete's moving out. Pete's mentioned that he was looking for work at the comic book store and that previously in the past he'd rented like a room in somebody else's house. I think that he'd be very comfortable in that sort of a role again. I genuinely think rather than trying to get an apartment alone, the best thing for Pete's would be to try and get like housing somewhere where he has roommates. So it's like a little bit of built-in interaction because he's a little bit of a more awkward guy. And I think that having people who are going to talk to him, like who are kind of not forced, but are in a scenario where conversation is much more likely to flow, I think it will do him a lot of good. And I think that he will gain a lot from that. Being stuck with Chantal, it's not good for anybody's mental health, especially not Chantal's, but it's really not doing Pete any favors here. He's already going through like a depressive episode, and I can't help but feel that some part of that is because of the way that they live. And if he is with people who are a lot less apathetic to the general like grossness that can accumulate in a house when both people don't care, I think he'd be much more likely to sort of keep up with it. And we've seen his room. His room seems pretty tidy. I think it's the common areas that he won't clean or put as much effort into. And Chantal doesn't seem to care at all. She'd live in absolute filth given half the chance. So I think that if Pete moves out, she's going to be forced to let this place go. And I think that maybe that not being able to find another place because of the bad state her finances are in will, I think, either push her to leave Natter for good, or it can go the other direction and she'll move in with him because she doesn't have a place to live. So either way, I think that it's coming to a head in a big way. I personally believe that they're going to end up breaking up, and for good, because she's not going to have the kind of money incoming that he wants, and I think he's going to let her go. While the control lies with Chantal, this will never end. Chantal will never end this relationship. She is incapable of it because Chantal can't deny herself anything. And it's led her to a position where she's stuck in a relatively toxic situation that she can't seem to convince herself to step out of it. Personally, I think the best thing here to do would be to talk to like a legitimate therapist and, you know, get information from them and follow through on their advice. But Chantal doesn't want to do that because working with a therapist, making that kind of a decision will be hard. And I don't think she has any intention of trying to follow through or trying to get better, of trying not to be this kind of a, I don't know, mess of a human being. Because I think for her, being a mess is more important than any kind of normality or happiness she might get otherwise. She likes the idea of having someone completely dedicated to her and loving her and, you know, just being there for her. She likes those things in theory, but she thrives on chaos and drama. Because anything less than that means that she is average, that she's ordinary. And she can't have that because she has like that weird need for attention at all times, and it's why she puts her life on the internet. It's why she's such a mess all of the time. She can't break free of it. She needs like a grand love story, you know. She needs like a 50 Shades of Grey style love story where, you know, it's like he's rich and handsome and famous and so much better than her, but he falls in love with her anyway, and he sweeps her off her feet, and she goes from being ordinary to being extraordinary. It's why she's trying so hard with Nader. She wants to turn what is, by every regard, an average toxic guy into like a long-lasting love story. I don't really know how to... I don't think anyone can really convince her otherwise. So, with all of that said, let's jump into it.
Like, basically, I feel like somebody's like stepping on my face to lift themselves up. And that's how I feel in this relationship. And I'm so not. No. You can fucking call me bald, fat, whatever, but I'm not a fucking pushover. And I have been for 6 months. Dealt with a lot more than I ever should have.
I think that Chantal, much like Pete's, is very non-confrontational most of the time. I think Chantal picks and chooses who she can unleash that wrath on, right? She knows that Pete's, given his just inability to be like social and like really learn how to make other friends, she knows that he's always going to be in her court because of how he is, right? Because he's not really willing to abandon her, because a lot of the more toxic aspects of her personality don't seem to turn him off, because she has conditioned him to accept this as a base level of friendship. And he doesn't really seem equipped to make new friends who could show him otherwise. So, you know, it's them, and then it's friends and family who she's known forever, and family. And with friends, she's very distant from them. She doesn't really interact with them. So she's sitting there, she's saying, oh, no, you're not going to treat me like that. I'm not a pushover, you know, but she is. Think about it. Who in her life does she actually like stand up for herself against, I guess? There's no one actively like oppressing her. There's no one actively standing there and saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, other than the people on the internet. And as Chantal has proven multiple times, we're not real to her. Very few people are real to Chantal who are on the internet. She sees us as just noise. She sees us as people who say mean things, but she doesn't seem to realize that we're full-fledged human beings in our own right. That we are as complex a person as she is. And she doesn't seem to consider us as real people. The people that she interacts with, her audience, it's just background information. It's just noise to her. As far as she's concerned, they're just people. They're just there. They're just going to give her money, and they're like bots that are saying positive affirmations to her. But she doesn't really have any kind of a connection with them. Because if she did have a connection with them, then she'd understand when someone is saying, hey, I'm saying this for your own good, don't do this. She would recognize that, but she doesn't. Anytime they get even slightly inconvenient, block, delete, block, delete, block, delete. You wouldn't do that to your friends in real life. You shouldn't do that to your friends on the internet. But Chantal can, and she does, because she doesn't view them as fully actualized people who are there for her and who she should appreciate. So, and as far as her standing up to Nader, look, I don't think it's a good idea at all. But I don't think that Chantal would have stood up to him even if he was just a regular guy. I think she's willing to roll over and take just about any kind of negative attention he throws her way, any kind of degrading comments he may throw her way, any kind of horrible behavior he may toss in her direction, because the validation that she gains from him occasionally paying attention to her or pretending like he loves her is more than anything else that she can get anywhere else. That validation is so important to her that she's willing to debase herself in front of anybody just to get a crumb of that. And that's how she is with him. Even if I think that he's a garbage person and she should not be interacting with him, I think that even if he was great, you know, if he was a good guy, I still think that she would be like this with him. And honestly, I think if he was a good guy, she'd be worse in her personality. I think that we are so focused on how terrible Nader is that we sometimes tend to forget just how terrible Chantal is. Right? And like I said, abuse doesn't always mean what you think it means. And, you know, there's a lot of different forms of abuse, financial being one of them. And I think that her withholding money that belongs to Pete, no matter how he wants to spend it, that's a form of financial abuse. But I think that beyond abusive, there is a lot of different types of toxic behavior. And one of the biggest ones that I have seen with Chantal is love bombing. She will throw everything at you to convince you that she loves you. And the moment she's done with you, bitch, bye. You know, she is willing to cast people out of her life so goddamn fast because they don't mean anything to her. She's not emotionally invested in them. Even Natter, for all that she seems to go back and forth with him and she has such a hard time letting go, I don't think she's really invested in Natter. I don't think she really loves Natter. I think what she loves is the attention that she gets from being with him. I think what she loves is that feeling of being appreciated and validated. I think what she loves is the attention that you get from being in a relationship. That proof that you have that you can hold up to other people and say, I am loved. And I think that's what she likes. That's all she gets from Natter. And being without it after having, being without it again after having gone without it for so long after breaking up with Bibi and seeing no real prospects in her future, I think she is very desperate. Like, I forgot who said this. Maybe it was Milk Tea. Maybe it was Mark, Steve from Smoky Steve and Mark. Maybe it was Mark. There is a lid for every pot. There's going to be someone out there who's going to like Chantal the way that she is. But I think that a better way of attracting people to you is maybe trying to better yourself, right? That's not to say that you need to be a certain way for you to have love and affection, but there are certain things that are definitive turnoffs for people that I think are extremely fair. For example, a lot of people don't like very morbidly obese people. It's got a little bit to do with the fact that our society is fat phobic, and a lot to do with the fact that being that fat or being extremely skinny as well, a lot of people find very unappealing physically, is because that implies a level of unhealthiness that people just don't want in their lives. For better or for worse, we treat people who have conditions like morbid obesity, anorexia, ongoing mental health concerns, ongoing, physical concerns. We treat them slightly differently than we treat people who are, I was going to say unremarkable, but average, I guess, is a better descriptor, right? Because it's easier. There's less considerations. If I was with someone of Chantal's size, right, I couldn't, for example, have gone on the vacation that I went on because a lot of our vacation was basically just swimming one place to the next. We spent hours and hours at the beach looking for turtles in the water. So I can't do that with Chantal, someone as Chantal's size, because they're going to get tired and we're going to have to stop. You know, there are and that's just the small stuff. Then there's the big stuff. If partner becomes as big as Chantal, being a guy, there's such a high risk of a heart attack. And I would worry about that all the time. The idea that I might love someone that completely and then lose them to something as horrific as heart disease, just one instance and they're gone. I don't think I could live with that kind of thing. Live with that kind of death sentence hanging over somebody I love that bad. I don't know if I'm the kind of person who's strong enough to deal with something like that. And I'm talking about immediate problems. There's also like the chronic problems, the knee problems, the ankle problems, the diabetes, the slow forms of heart disease, the cholesterol medication she's going to have to be on, the expenditures that are going to have to come with taking care of her. You want someone to be in your life, to love you, to appreciate you, to validate you. Consider bettering yourself and look for that validation internally. And what I found is that a lot of times if you can do those two things, then you will attract better people to you, right? I mentioned this in a video that I did in the past, but people love to say that, oh, I lost weight and everybody was nicer to me. But when I lose weight, when I am confident about myself, I am nicer to people. I smile more at people. I'm more friendly. I'm more outgoing. I'm more... I don't know. I'm just in so much of a better mood. I'm just so much more confident in who I am as a person that I project that. And that projection garners me a certain type of attention. So yes, I'm sure part of it is that people are fat phobic. And when they saw that I was fatter, that they were less willing to extend me courtesy and sympathy and think of me as a normal human person, right? But I think it's also much more likely that because I was like that, because I also feel that because I am fat, I am ugly and maybe no one will like me. People are judging me. And what if they're thinking about what I'm eating? And what if they're thinking that the chair is going to hold my weight? When I think like that about myself, I'm less likely to be a happy person. I'm less likely to be an engaged person. I'm less likely to project confidence. People can read that. a lot of times most people match your energy. If your energy is low, you're in a bad mood, people are going to match that. So
just like the difference in the vibe in my chat versus that one last night was so like, people are just so like idiotic, and like his fans are just like,
correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't his chat an open chat. I'm unwilling to go to his channel to check, as you guys are well aware. But my understanding was that his chat is an open chat. Her chat is a members only chat. The vibe's always going to be different between those two forms of chats. For one thing, people who support her are much more likely to pay that $5 a month so that they can talk to her. I don't support her. I'm not going to pay the $5 so I can talk to her because I don't like her. Why would I give you $5 to engage with someone who I think is generally unpleasant? You're much more likely to have filtered out a lot of the people who are more critical of you by having that $5 restriction. And you rarely, if ever, do open chats anymore because you know the vast majority of people who watch you cannot stand you, madam. So don't be coming in here saying, oh, well, the vibe was very different. People are so stupid. People are not stupid. They see through your bullshit. They see through his bullshit, too. It's just that right now, they seem to detest him a lot less than they seem to detest you. And I'm just talking about the people in his chat, right? And I think the reason why he's getting less hate than she is because people have this enemy of my enemy mentality where it's like, oh, well, you know, we hate Chantal and obviously he doesn't seem to like her either and he can dish information. Let's go see if we can weasel some information out of him. Do I think that that is a good way to behave? No. Do I think that she's the one who's put herself in this position? Oh, 100%. You're the one who is actively engaging with this man. Like, if partner, on the very, very unlikely chance he ever made a YouTube channel, do you think that he's going to attract haters of mine to that channel? No. Because partner's not going to be getting on here and saying, like, garbage things about me. But this man will. This man will talk absolute nonsense about her because that's who he is. Because he's not a good guy. And rather than understanding that and disengaging from that, you continue to indulge him. Why would he change his behavior when there's been no repercussions for how he acts? And you can't hold his audience accountable for that, I think, to a certain degree, because I think a lot of them are trolls. I don't think they like him. They just want to troll her.
just fat shaming, like, ooh, look how you look on camera. Like, who gives a fuck how someone looks? He's been doing this since the beginning and you keep going back. Yep, I did. Stupid. My song called Pathetic for a reason. How am I just now realizing that? I don't know. Because who wants to realize that? Like, who wants to think, like... Oh, I just don't get it.
See, and we're once more back at that not wanting to think about things. We're once more back at that I don't want to process these emotions. Because she gets to that, she's like, I'm just, because who wants to realize that? Who wants to think? And then she doesn't let the thought land. She doesn't say it with her own two lips. And part of that is definitely for her own benefit, because she doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't want to be concerned with it. She doesn't want to give it any room in her head, because that would mean that she would have to change her behavior. That would mean that she would have to seriously reconsider going back to him. And we already know she's going to go back to him. A lot of her coming on here airing this dirty laundry is her attempt of shaming him into being nicer to her. Something which I don't think is going to work, because he is equally, if not more so, shameless than she is. But she can't, the other reason she won't let that thought land is because verbalizing it would mean that we have evidence of that. And we're going to see her weaponize that in a little bit.
It was an accidental dox for what? And yeah, if you give me an STD, that's another thing that really secretly pisses me off.
Let's talk about the accidental dox for 1 second, okay? Look, people are going to get doxed on the internet. It's just a thing that's going to happen because people are shitty on the internet. When you post stuff on the internet, you have to understand that to a certain degree that you are always at risk of being doxed. Is that a good realization? Is that like nice to think about? No. But it's an eventuality more than anything else. Everyone's going to slip up at some point or another. That said, when you first started seeing Natter, you didn't tell him that you had a YouTube channel. You talked about him on the internet all the time. You took away his ability to consent. I tell you guys little bits of partner's personality, things that I think are relevant to this, but I don't give you any details about who he is as a human being. His interests, his disinterest. There's been quite a few moments where I've caught his voice on camera accidentally, and I cut as much of that out as possible, even if the edit looks a little weird. Because it's important to me to protect his privacy, because he doesn't like being on camera, right? She should have done the same thing with him. It doesn't matter if it's accidental, first of all. If you doxed him, you doxed him. He gets to be mad. More importantly, though, that you have a pattern of doing this. You've doxed him repetitively. You've doxed multiple people repetitively. And the reason people have such a hard time giving you the benefit of the doubt is because every time you do this, your case gets less and less credible. Every time you do this, people come to the greater realization that, yes, it might be accidental, but it keeps accidentally happening because you don't care. It's like, say you remind somebody of a task, right? And it's important. They say, I'll get to it. And then you remind them again, they still haven't gotten to it. Then you remind them again and you get back to it. And eventually, you just do it yourself. And they're like, I was going to do that, but you kept forgetting. Obviously, if it was something important that you were going to do, then you would have remembered and you would have committed it to memory. You wouldn't forget an important task for yourself. She wouldn't have forgotten if she had to go pick up weed. She wouldn't forget if it comes to lying to her audience about how much contact she's in with the rest of her family. She wouldn't forget to not pay Pete's, right? That's maybe reaching a little. But what I mean to say is when stuff's important to Chantal, she remembers. She remembers the people who give her a lot of money in her chat. She remembers details about what people said or did. So we know she has the capability of doing it. She doesn't care if she doxes people, which is why she frequently doxes people.
Just knowing that he did cheat and fucking making me feel like because even if I did that with the micropene, it was so you don't get gonorrhea months after. I'm sorry. So it was definitely something recent, and it was obviously with someone dirty.
I'm going to pause it here for a second. She's going to make a comment about the person who she supposedly hooked up with who, she's like, oh, well, even if I did it with the gentleman who she hooked up with, I'm not going to refer to him the way that she did, because I think degrading somebody down, bringing somebody down all the way to their genitals is, I don't know, it's reductive and I don't particularly like it. So she's saying, well, I could have gotten the STD from him. She's saying, I never, you don't get it months after the fact, and she's acting all the indignant about it. To refresh everybody's memory, the way that Chantal first phrased this, when this first came out, was Chantal said, oh, I'd also, been with this guy, and I don't know who the gonorrhea was from. It could have been from him. It could have been maybe from, Natter. She didn't spell it out like that, but that was definitely the implication that she was going with. She was like, can you get it from a bathroom seat? She's giving out all of these hypothetical situations in which someone could theoretically get gonorrhea to confuse the fact that, oh, well, I just don't know where I got it from. Where do you think you could have gotten it from, ma'am? You were only having sex with one other person. If this other person even existed, who she gave a BJ to, if this person even existed, this was months ago. So if you have the idea about it now, I know you had the idea about it then because a ton of people screamed it at you in your chats. But you were willing to ignore all of that because you were trying to mislead us. You were trying to paint the picture that this is what I mean, that it could have been him, therefore there's plausible deniability for Natter. Because then the narrative you were trying to push was that Natter is a good guy and, maybe it came from some other place. And now you're sitting on here and you're like, oh, you don't get gonorrhea. We knew this. We told you this. And you chose to ignore it then, and now you're acting like, oh, this was always common knowledge? Now you're acting like I've never pretended to be like that I've never acted like that? I hate when she does this.
And there's a difference between not washing and being dirty. And I do wash, so shut up, okay?
She absolutely does not wash. Chantal's personal hygiene is absolutely disgusting. It is disgusting, okay? No one will convince me otherwise. She's often greasy. She wears the same crusty clothes over and over again. Her hair is matted. She doesn't wash her face when she goes to sleep. She has rotting food all over her house. You will not convince me that Chantal's a clean person. Not at all. Right? Like, I'm a little particular. I understand, right? But even like, I'm not like my mom. My mom is extremely particular. I like have stuff all over the place. Like, I've got like stuff sitting. You guys can't see it, but there's like, I have like a little leather bench thing in my room, and it's got like folded clothes sitting there that I have to put away. It's clean laundry. Right? I have stuff like that in my house. I have like paper sitting on my desk that I actually need to put away neatly. I've got like my work laptop and stuff is all just sitting on my bed over there, because that's just kind of how I am. I'm like a messy kind of a person sometimes. I don't always put things away. You know what there's not, though? There's no rotting food sitting in this room. You know what there's not, though? There's no like stuff rotting into the carpet. I don't have piles of garbage, or I don't have piles of boxes sitting outside. There's no cat shit or human shit sitting in the living room on the floor. I don't have a mountain of dishes sitting in my sink collecting mold on them. I don't do stuff like that, because I live like an average human person, as in I am clean, but I'm kind of untidy sometimes. And there is not a correlation between having poor physical hygiene and being careful when it comes to sexual activities. She's equating the two, saying that, oh, you're dirty, therefore you got an STD. No, sometimes it's just simply a lack of awareness. And sometimes it's people who are idiots who seem to be placing their trust in the wrong people, like Chantal. Don't forget, you have an STD right now. And you're saying, I'm not dirty. This person who he got it from, though, must have been dirty. Why? How do you know that the person that he got it from, that they didn't have, I don't know, sex with someone who they were completely in love with, who thought that who they were told was like completely safe, who they fully trusted, and then when they broke up, they accidentally passed it on to Nader? How do you know that? How do you know they're just not someone who's extremely misinformed? How do you know that maybe there was like a hole in the condom or something? I don't know if that would actually do it. I think that's only for pregnancy. Just, you're so willing to assign negative characteristics to people who you've never met, but you don't seem to realize that these people like are in the same boat as you are. And you don't seem to realize that like calling them out for their shit means that you can also be held equally as liable for the shit you say. You're calling them dirty? Ma'am, have you looked at yourself? Are those yesterday's hair fibers or from 3 days ago? How much cat shit is sitting in your living room right now? Maybe then you can take a swing at other people. Until then, shut your goddamn mouth.
Kiss my fat, dirty ass.
God only knows what kind of incurable crotch rot I would get if I kissed her fat, dirty ass. Okay? I know I'm being a little facetious, and I don't actually mean that she'd give me an STD, but I am almost certain that I'm going to get something. Because Lord only knows how many dingleberries she has literally rotting to her skin. And before people get on my case about this is actually a really big problem with bigger people, is that folds of skin can get a lot of like funguses and bacterial diseases in them, because if you don't clean them properly, that can become an issue. And with someone who has as poor hygiene as Chantal, that is such a high likelihood. Like, it's not an STD. You're not going to pass it on if you have sex with someone, but it's like bad for you as a person. I feel like I should retract my comment about crotch rot, but God, I can't. Because I feel like I'm going to get some sort of flesh-eating bacteria.
I didn't say it was Micropene who gave it to me. I said maybe. I said the only thing I can think of is the only person I've been with is Micropene. I did not ever say, and if I want verbatim, somebody send me in my fucking DMs me saying Micropenis gave me gonorrhea and I gave it to Nader. Right now.
Here's the thing. This is what I meant about her addressing this person again, right? Look, I don't think she ever said verbatim that I think X person gave it to me and I passed it on to Nader. But she does the thing that I've heard a lot of people do when they want to discredit proof. is they'll bring up unrelated topics, or they'll bring up something that technically could be true but definitely wasn't in this situation, right? It's like, but have you thought about this? But have you thought about this? But have you thought about this? What about this? What if this? What if that? And that's what she does with this, right? She's like, oh, well, what about when X, Y, and Z, like, I never said that. All I was saying was that it's possible that maybe he gave it to me. It's possible that I got it from a dirty toilet seat. It's possible that this is the first case of spontaneous STD production in a human being. All of those things are technically possible, but that doesn't mean that it's probable. It doesn't mean that it's likely. And you're not stupid enough to not know the probability of that happening to you, right? It's like when you find out that you're pregnant. It's possible that it's a virgin birth, but probably you had sex with someone unprotected and got pregnant. That's kind of how that works. Lots of things are possible. Very few things are probable. And Chantal knows this. And that's why she doesn't give us hard facts. She doesn't say, oh, this is what happened. Because then it's easy for someone to call her out on the lie. Instead, she'll hedge her bets and she'll give you just enough information where you'll go, oh, okay. So what she means to say is that she could have gotten it from him without ever actually saying the words. She leads you to that conclusion. And then the moment when it no longer suits her purpose, she'll gaslight you by saying shit like this, saying, oh, well, I never said that. If there's no proof of it, there's no proof of me saying this exact thing verbatim, I guess it wasn't true. All that leading that she did, it was like not a problem at all. Because obviously, she never said that, and therefore that couldn't have possibly been the conclusion that she was pushing us to. Not that very many people believed her anyway. But 100% that was the narrative she was trying to push back then. 100%.
No, I don't tell this to Nader. I'm not going to tell him to his face this shit. And when I do argue with... Yes, I do tell him. Like, all the time I get moody. I'm always bitchy with him. Every time I'm there, it's all his channel. Can you upload my video? Can you edit my video?
Okay. I was waiting to see if there was anything else she had to say about that. But there is a huge difference between talking to somebody about something and being bitchy with them, right? It's not always what you say, it's the way you said it. And some of the time, a lot of the time, I would argue that if you are not careful about how you're phrasing something, it can come across as being very aggressive, and that gets the other person's hackles up, and then it's just an unproductive conversation. That's why when partner and I have disagreements, which we have all of the time, right? It's better to take a step back, think about it calmly, and then come back when you've had a chance to think it over in your head. Because there's a lot of factors that can contribute to you being mad at someone. Are you hungry? Did you get enough sleep last night? Are you annoyed by someone else and potentially transferring that anger onto your partner or whoever in your life? Are you stressed about something that they have said or done? Are you worried about something else and you're transferring it onto this? Have you been building this resentment up for a while and it's just this is the straw that broke the camel's back? It can be a variety of different things, and you have to sit about it to sit in your own feelings for a few minutes and think it through and then come back and talk to them. Because if you start talking to them and you start getting tishy and they're also not in a great mood and they start getting annoyed, or they're like Nada and they have anger issues, it's going to devolve into a screaming match, and that's completely unproductive for every person involved. That's not how you handle conflicts. That's not like good resolution skills. So that's not what you do. You want to have a productive conversation, you sit down and you calmly talk to the other person about it. This like, of course I tell him. First she goes, I don't tell him, which I believe. Then she goes, of course I tell him. She does not tell him. She comes on here and she bitches about it after the fact. It does two things. One, if you really do want to catch somebody in a lie, it's better to do it sooner rather than later and be there in person, because when she's let her version of it sit for so long, he can sit back there, come up with an alternate story for what's happened, and he can put it out there as well. And she doesn't have any way of really counteracting that because she's not intelligent enough to come up with something that will prove that he's lying, right? All she can say is he's lying. You know what I mean? She's not good at analyzing words and analyzing situations. And secondarily, that is not a productive conversation. You're not talking to him, you're complaining at us. And that's the thing I don't think she understands. Even complaining at him is not all that productive, but it's slightly better than complaining at us. What you need to do is have a legitimate adult conversation. Have it with him and have it with your therapist. And between those two people, you should be able to figure out what the best course of action is for your relationship, which I personally think is breaking up with this man and never, ever, ever, ever seeing him again.
What are we going to do? Let's go live. And then it's like, if I want to go for a morning bees, when back? It's like my channel. I need to focus on my fucking channel too. Like,
right, but that's not his priority. Why do you go over there to help his channel? Like, what is he going to do? Take the bus to come and harass you in your own home? Please. Why do you go over there at all? If your channel is so important to you, stay home and work on your channel. If your channel is so important to you, how about you record and upload videos for us rather than doing it for him on his channel? Why don't you make your channel a priority instead of asking him to let you have access to your own channel, and rather than giving you the breathing room to focus on your channel? Why don't you make that time for yourself? And you're acting, by the way, like you guys are living together and he's always all up in your business, right? Like, I live with partner, and if partner wanted, he could make me filming very, very difficult for me. Could be opening the doors, coming in and out of frame, you know, like putting away all of my filming equipment, like this backdrop here or the lights that I have up here. He could do that. He doesn't do that. But he could if he wanted to. But if I lived completely by myself, or with Pete, who is basically like unintrusive to the max, he'll just stay in his room the whole time, you could be filming everywhere in that house. And you could be putting up pre-recorded content. You choose not to do that. You choose not to do that. And then you complain to us about how he's not letting you focus on your own channel. You don't focus on your own channel. You don't put any effort or energy into your channel. All he wants you to do is to not go live. And quite frankly, that would have been the easiest thing to accommodate him on. Just do pre-recorded content. Do you know how much easier it would be to keep secrets from your audience if you were just doing pre-recorded content? Do you know how much easier it would be to keep one consistent narrative, to make yourself look better, to have people not like figure out all details of your life? All you have to do is do pre-recorded content. But she is not willing to put in that effort because, one, she doesn't want to, and she's lazy as all fuck. But two, and equally as important, it's because that won't give her the kind of attention that she craves from the internet.
What time are you going to be back? I need a time. Well, you don't tell people that on camera, do you?
Why would he? I mean this very genuinely. Why would he do that? I've told you guys before, I have anger issues. But I don't come on here and scream into the camera. Because why would I? I don't want to show people the worst aspects of my personality. That has nothing to do with being on camera. I wouldn't do that if I was at work, if I was with friends, if I was in a public setting either. Because that is not the best aspect of myself. And as far as I'm concerned, I only ever want to be putting my best foot forward. So why would he do this? And for him, it's even more important that he seems like a good person. Because for him, his ability to stay in the country might be dependent on him not being charged with any kind of illegal activity. And given what I'm pretty sure he's doing on the side, I think that that would be of vested interest to him. Not coming on camera and spewing all of the things that are happening in your life doesn't make you two-faced or a bad person. It makes you intelligent. Most people don't put all aspects of their life up on the internet because they understand, like I understand, that there is no need for everyone to know all of you. Because even if I was completely 100% authentic, right, which basically just means all of my unfiltered parts of my personality, the way that I wouldn't even behave with my friends and family, all of that, I just put it onto the internet. What good does that do? You still have a warped perception of me because that's not how I would behave on a day-to-day basis. That's not how I would act with people around me. That's not the way that I want to be. Why wouldn't I try and instead give you the impression of me that I think is most serving to that particular scenario? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm communicating my thought exactly here, but there's a big difference between putting all aspects of your personality on blast, front and center in every video, and being inauthentic. This is not how I am. This is just me, how I would be with friends and family and most people in my life. But there are entire aspects of my personality that I don't show to the vast majority of people. That doesn't make me two-faced.
Why am I in this situation? Because I don't value myself enough.
It would be so easy to reduce all of her foibles down to just, she doesn't value herself. She just has low self-esteem, you guys. That is part of it. She definitely does have low self-esteem, but there is more to Chantal than just, oh, low self-esteem. Chantal is, in parts, very narcissistic. She is, in parts, very, fuck the machine, fuck the authorities, I do what I want. And she is very immature. And a lot of her personality seems to be driven purely by spite. Her decision making seems to be driven purely by spite. So, no, I don't think that she's just in the situation because she doesn't love herself. I think she's in this situation because of a lot of different complex personality traits, but I think at the root of which is a bone idle laziness that is so incredibly deep that I don't think even she knows how to break out of it. Because she doesn't want to change in any regard in her life. She just wants to stay stagnated in all aspects of her personality. In Urdu, there is like a phrase, I don't know if this is commonly used or not, but my friend uses it. My family says, if someone is that lazy, they're like, sust pattar. It means as lazy as a still stone, like boulders. And my friend says, she says dhila disco, which is basically, it means loose disco. This is a term I'd never heard before, but I just think everyone should know. She described it. She's like, when you go to if you go to like a disco or you're going somewhere where you're going to be dancing, and rather than putting in any kind of effort, you just sort of stand there and go, ugh. That's what dhila disco means. It just makes me smile. But that's what it means. It's like bone deep laziness, an inability to change and grow and evolve. And that's why I think she's in the position that she's in. Because a lot of her personality traits are personality traits that I have had, that I think a lot of young adults have, that people grow out of because they learn their lessons, because they choose to grow, because they keep with them the history that they have accumulated and learn not to repeat it. And she just doesn't. She just chooses not to.
And I wish I could be like, yeah, let's go love ourselves and right on, like girl power. I just don't feel that way, honestly.
But then have you considered talking to a therapist about this? Because I think talking to a therapist might do you a world of good, because they'd be able to help you get to that point of understanding with yourself. They'd be able to help you get to that point where you can sit and think to yourself, okay, I get it. This is why I'm doing this, but I can be better. If you talk to them, you might come to that understanding, but you don't seem really to be willing to talk to them. You don't really seem to be willing to listen to the advice of people who do know better.
I don't feel anything but hurt and heartbreak and anger. A lot of anger.
And every single one of those emotions is fair. Every single one of those emotions is valid, but they're only an excuse for so long. And honestly, the time where I could have seen that as a legitimate excuse has come and gone.
Why didn't I say anything when he brought the keys up? Because what am I going to say there right to his face? Like, no. I have trouble saying things to his face, actually.
And I agree with that. I've said before, I don't think she should be confronting him at all. This is a volatile man.
I'm a coward, I guess.
It's not cowardice. This is why I left this clip in here, because I've already addressed that point before. But it's not cowardice to not want to confront someone who has physically been abusive with you. There's no cowardice in that. That's not a coward's action. Self-preservation is not cowardice. You are doing the best you can. It's okay, you know, if the only person that you can save in your lifetime is you. You are worthwhile. So, like, don't ever feel like you have to confront people who are abusive towards you. That's not, like, going to lead you to some great catharsis. That's not going to lead to, like, a better outcome. Your safety is your number one priority. So first, keep yourself safe. All of that confronting them and getting them to admit or whatever, or like talking to them, all of that, you should be brave and stand up for yourself. That's great in theory, and you should do that. But in practical application, your number one priority should always be safety, especially when it comes to any situation where physical violence is involved. Number one, first and foremost, without no caveats, is making sure that you're safe.
Call him out on live. Because I have to deal with him after the live. That's why. Like, I'm like, what?
Okay, she doesn't have to deal with him after the fact. And this is the thing that really bothers me. It's that, why do you have to deal with him after the fact? He's not a child. You're not responsible for him. You can simply leave. You can simply not come back. You choose to deal with him. That's why people are saying, why don't you call him out on live? Because they're like, well, then you can just leave. You can choose not to show up there. You choose to show up there every single day to be treated like that. And honestly, like the parallel that I'm drawing in my head is someone who's stuck in a very toxic workplace environment, except you don't get paid. You actively spend money to be there. You spend money to be unhappy. I cannot fathom it.
What do I, like I'm delusional. Like, I'm gonna be like, hey, yeah, so, and I know what you guys are getting at when you asked me, what are you gonna bring him home for Christmas dinner? After my family has been through, like, torment with me going through this with this guy. Like, it's a fucking pipe dream. I don't know what that means, but... Oh, the long road.
All right, look, her family didn't go through torment because of this guy. They went through torment because of you, Chantal. You are the only person who's responsible for the situation that your family found itself in, because you were the person who held their affections for you over a barrel. You were the person who chose to engage with a man who gave you drugs, who you still keep going back to. You can blame him for a lot of the things in your life, but as far as your family is concerned, they didn't introduce you to this man. They aren't connected to him. They don't interact with him. They only interact with you. You are the one who chose him over them. You are the one who essentially pushed them to the point where they had to cut you out of their lives. And you are the one who continues to prioritize him over your family. You don't get to come on here and say, they suffered so much because of him. No. They suffered so much because of you. You did this. Own your own shit. You did this to them. You did this to you, and you did this to them. And for all that, some parts of what you went through are completely the fault of Natters. No part of what they are going through is the fault of Natter. 100% you. And no, not only should they not have him over, they should never have her over either.
If you're sending super chats or joining right now, I unfortunately can't look at them. And, well, I mean, I'm driving, so I'm trying to be a responsible driver. I know a lot of you think I'm not, and I'm not saying I've always been the best, most responsible driver. I'm trying to be better, okay?
Look. Chantal, yes, she says this. She's like, yeah, I haven't always been the best driver, but I'm really trying to be better. And when I think of that, I think to myself, I don't give a shit. The time to learn to be a better driver is when you're in driver's ed. And fun fact, I actually went through the Canadian driving system. I got my license in Canada. I've never gotten my license. Well, I never did the road test here. They just converted my Canadian license to an American license. So I qualified to be a driver in Canada. I was a good driver, okay? I'm like a decent driver. I'm not horrible. I'm a terrible parker, but I'm a decent driver, right? But I'm a very, very safe driver. I know the rules and procedurals, and I know what's needed in place to become a driver in Canada, which is how I know that there is actually a pretty long period of time where you were like just a permitted driver, and you have like several different stages of a license that you have to get before you get your road test and get your full license, right? And so that's the time you have to learn to be a good driver. You don't, at the age of 37, say, well, I'm learning to be a better driver now. No. I give you no grace. You do not pass go. You do not collect $200. Fuck this shit. You have had your chance to be a better driver. You should be a decent driver now. And by the way, by decent, I don't mean like drive well. Like I said, I'm an okay driver. I'm not like great. I'm pretty good, I think. But I'm a terrible parker. Being a bad parker is not the same as what Chantal does. Even being a bad driver is not the same as what Chantal does. Like, bad driving, in my opinion, is somebody who, like, maybe changes lanes a little too fast. Maybe when they stop at a stop sign, they slam on their brakes rather than coming to a gradual stop. Maybe when they're driving, they're overly reactionary and hit the brake a little bit every time. And as soon as there's even a slight bit of an issue, and they create, like, this rocking motion in the car, and you get sick. There's a bunch of different people who drive in a bunch of different styles that aren't dangerous. They're just kind of like not great, right? One of the biggest things I've seen in California is people change lanes all the goddamn live long day without any kind of an understanding that there are such things as signals. And then you go to freaking New York and New Jersey, and it's like people there don't seem to realize that there's speed limits at all. They drive like demons. So, no. I don't agree with you, right? Like, because what she's described is not being a better driver in sense of, I'm going to drive a little bit slower. I'm going to be better about always giving an indication of when I'm changing lanes. I'm going to be a little bit better. What she's talking about is not being a distracted driver. She's saying that, oh, I know that in the past you guys have said that I'm reading comments while I drive. I'll try not to do that anymore. It's not like texting and driving has been proven to reduce the amount of attention you're paying to the road and lead to fatal collisions, right? No, she gets no quarters from me. I do not extend you any sympathy in this regard. Fuck you, and I hope your car gets taken away. I'm like so done with the way that she treats it. I'm trying to be a better driver, you guys. I listen to you, and I'm trying to be a better driver. 2 days ago, you jumped a curb and you laughed about it. Fuck off. You're one mustache away from being an actual cartoon villain. Okay, I got a little heated there right towards the end. Chantal is testing my patience. She's testing the limits that I have set in place for myself. I don't really know how to deal with her right now. This whole back and forth nather thing, I'm so over this. I'm so over this nonsense. God, I'm only living it in a very tertiary manner because I'm only watching her on the internet. And even that, most of the time, I'm watching through either other reaction channels like Life of a Free Spirit, Callie, or like Just Saying, or somebody like that. And like, even then, I'm done with it, right? I don't know how she's living like this. I have no idea how somebody can live like this. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm gonna go. Thank you so much to all of my patrons. In particular, thank you to Oceana Songs and D. Higgins. You guys are the GOAT, which means greatest of all time, but you're also an actual GOAT in that you can climb at extreme inclines. I think that's amazing. As always, I've got all my social medias linked down below. I've got Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. I'm going to be putting up another video on Patreon as well today. So it's like Tim, no beezing, no drama, or something like that. Tim Beezing. No drama. That's what it's called. So that's also going to go up today. And yeah, that will be it from me. As always, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace. A special thank you to my patrons, Acrophobe, Ariel M, Christina, Courtney EP, Dainty B, Lori H, Sidra Z, Colleen L, Debbie E, Just a Jude, Kate O, Sonia P, and a special thank you to my $25 patrons, D. Higgins and Oceana Song.